When you think about the most impactful decisions a company makes, you probably picture a boardroom, right? But what if I told you the really important decisions, the ones that truly shape everything, are the ones nobody ever announces? In fact, they sound a lot more like this.
Ah, the classic. You've heard this one, right? Just a quick, practical fix to get something out the door. Seems totally harmless.
And of course, its close cousin. We'll clean it up later. A little promise we make to our future selves, all in the name of speed. Totally makes sense in the moment.
Or maybe this one. A tiny tweak to the workflow. Just one more little step, to add a bit more control. What could go wrong? But here's the big idea, the question we're digging into. What if these small, seemingly insignificant, off-the-cuff choices are actually the ones steering the entire ship?
Yeah, we're all taught that strategy comes from the top. But the truth is, the way a company actually works, its culture, its speed, its very personality, is often just the sum total of thousands of these tiny, technical choices, all layered on top of each other.
So, how does that happen? How does one little decision made in a planning meeting start a ripple that turns into a tidal wave? Well, let's trace it. It always starts small. A team needs to ship something, so they take a shortcut. Totally understandable. But then, maybe a few months later, another team comes along and builds a new feature right on top of that shortcut. And then another. Pretty soon, those dependencies are baked in, they've hardened like concrete, and before you know it, everyone's just referring to that part of the system as complex or legacy.
And here's the crucial part. Nobody planned for this complexity. There was no memo from the CEO saying, let's build a complicated system. It just happened. It emerged from the ground up, one small, logical decision at a time.
All right, so now let's connect the dots and look at how these technical details create real, tangible business consequences. This is where the code really meets the road.
Let's take a super simple word, customer. Seems obvious, right? But somewhere, an engineer has to write code that defines what a customer actually is. Is it someone with a paid account, someone in a free trial, someone who bought something 5 years ago? This feels like a minor implementation detail, but trust me, it's anything but.
Because that one single line of code defining customer impacts everything. If the marketing team's definition doesn't match the finance team's, their reports will never ever line up. And suddenly you're wasting entire meetings just arguing about whose numbers are right. Trust between teams starts to erode. All because of that one little definition.
Okay, here's another great example. Who gets to see the data? If you build your system so performance dashboards are locked down and only senior leaders can see them, you're not just restricting data, you're actively strengthening the hierarchy. But if you make those exact same dashboards open for everyone to see, well, now you're creating a culture of shared accountability and transparency.
It's so powerful when you think about it. The technical rules you set for who can see what and who has to approve what, that's not just code, that literally becomes the architecture of power and influence in your company.
Think about the chat tool you use every day. Was it set up with private channels as the default or open ones? That one tiny setting has a huge impact on how people behave. Private channels encourage information to flow up and down a hierarchy. Open channels encourage it to flow sideways, making collaboration way easier. The default setting is quietly shaping your entire culture.
So all of this is leading to a really big conclusion. These aren't just small details that influence your strategy. At a certain point, you have to realize that your technical architecture is your strategy.
You know that term we all use, technical debt? It's the price we pay for all those shortcuts we talked about. Well, let's translate that into business language. Technical debt isn't just about a future cleanup project. The real-world consequence is organizational inertia. It's a company that can't move fast, can't innovate, can't react.
Every big architectural decision you make is really a decision about your future options. Going with a single monolith system versus smaller microservices has a huge impact on how your teams have to coordinate. Choosing a proprietary system might be easy today, but it locks you in and makes you dependent for years. These aren't just tech choices. They are fundamental strategic commitments.
So when you hear a company talk about being agile, it's not just a mindset. A company's ability to pivot and adapt is, more often than not, a direct reflection of how flexible its underlying technology is. If your systems are rigid, your strategy will be too. This all brings us to the most important question of all. Is your organization's culture and structure just a happy accident of all these past decisions, or can you actually be intentional about it?
You have to think about it like this. Every technical choice, every API design, every database schema, it isn't neutral.
Each one is like a little seed you're planting. And those seeds grow, quietly and slowly, until they form the entire landscape of your organization.
Seriously, look back at the history of any company. The way it works today, both its greatest strengths and its most frustrating bottlenecks, can almost always be traced back to a handful of these foundational technical decisions made years ago. Together, they literally formed the company's DNA.
But the really forward-thinking companies, they get this. They've made a crucial shift. They don't just ask, will this solution work? They ask a better question. What habits will this solution create? What kind of culture will it encourage? They treat architecture as a strategic act of design.
And that's really the final thought for you. Take a hard look at your own organization. The way you all work, the tools you use, the processes you follow, is it the result of conscious, intentional design? Or are you and everyone around you living in a house that was built by accident?